All right. Thank you all very much. Appreciate you being here. Let's just have a word of prayer and we'll jump in and cover a few things and let you guys ask questions if you have them and see what information we have. Dear God, thank you for every coach that's here. Thank you for all the kids that they represent and the challenges they're facing, the challenges they're overcoming. And we just want to ask you to be with us and give us clarity tonight. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, a couple things we want to cover, and just to make sure, I know I've sent out a lot of emails, and want to cover a few things, what the event's going to look like, the weekend's going to look like, just to be sure we're there. We do have meals available for purchase. Meals are not included in your registration fee. Um, or you're welcome to get meals wherever you like. That's fine as well. But the Forest Lake Pathfinder Club is handling all of the meals for us, for which I'm very grateful because I'm in the tournament business, not the meal, not the meal providing business. And they do a good job. So you would purchase directly from them. There is a cutoff date. I think it's of April 2 if you want a little bit of a discount on the meals. And they do ask that you purchase meals ahead of time. So on the weekend, on Friday and Sabbath, there's a lot of different options that you can do, places you can go. We want to encourage your teams to enjoy. I know sometimes teams like to go to the beach and have their own worship service or their own. Sometimes they join a variety of churches. The one church I know that is not in session on that weekend is the Whole Life Church. Because that is their camper, that's their retreat weekend, so they are not having services that weekend. I think it's about the only weekend of the year that they don't. Um, but there's plenty of other churches around. If you kind of want to have a feel for the type of service something has, of course, a lot of things are online, but I can give you an idea of some of the churches anyway, what they're like. Friday night, or sorry, Saturday night, we will have our Vespers. That's when our program starts. It's Friday night at 7:15. We'll have Vespers in the Schmidt Auditorium, and the Schmidt Auditorium is on the campus of Forest Lake Academy. It's by the parking lot on the there. I can send you a map or look around for it, but it will be in the Schmidt Auditorium. It's like two buildings over from the gymnasium in right there on the main part of campus. So that's where we'll have our Vespers. Then we will have team check-in and inspections on Saturday night. So inspections are, there's two things that I want to emphasize that will make a difference in lowering your stress level as a coach and as your teams. That if you do these two things, it will help you. One is your inspections. And I'm just going to, well, I think I'm going to switch screens here. Give me just a second. I'm going to share my screen and show you where you can get these. They are in the game manual, but we just wanted to talk about this a little bit and make sure you have seen it. I know I've talked about it before. If I'm repeating myself, it's because it's important. So in the game, it's in the back of game manual. I can't remember if it's one or two that it's in the back of, but it is also here. There are two different inspections. On this page here, there is the robot inspection checklist and the field inspection checklist. And I believe I sent them as attachments in one of my emails, the FTC inspection forms. But both of these are important. So robot inspection, this is very important. Go down. We're not worried about you bringing a piece of paper with us. We're going to have our own checklist when we're there, but this is your checklist. You should be going through it. If you have not gone through your inspection checklist yet, please do that as soon as possible. Start doing that right away. It doesn't matter right now whether you pass or not. What matters right now is that you're going through and you know what you need to do yet to pass. Some of them are very simple. Does not contain animal-based liquids or gels or gel material. Okay, that's probably a really good idea. Probably pretty easy to check off. If you're not sure about the rule associated with it, to the right is the rule. You can go and look at all the details of that. So please make sure you do that. Robot does not have contain sharp edges or corners. A little bit of gaffer's tape on the sharp corner. File it down if you need to, but a little bit of gaffer's tape over the edge will take care of that. So some of these are very easy to take care of. Some of them are a little bit more, okay, you got to give some thought to. But please do go ahead and go through that. ahead of time. Our goal is we want you to pass inspection. We don't want anybody to come all the way here and not play, because we want you to be able to be successful. But passing inspection is one of those things to do. One of the couple of things to look at on there is make sure you pay attention to the size of the lettering for your numbers, your team numbers, where they're positioned, your markers, those things. Those are common things that are overlooked in the process. So we will encourage teams to use gracious professionalism. So if you are a team that is all ready to go and you've checked it all off, yeah, then you can go start working on the practice fields. Practice fields will not be available until after you've passed inspections. But we encourage you to look around for teams that are struggling and help them out. So this isn't us as tournament officials helping out the other teams. It's you helping each other, helping be successful, and we'll work with you to help them in the process. The field inspection, this is the second inspection you have to do. Again, go through it. This is making sure that all the electronics work and you can drive it and you can turn it off and it's safety. Make sure you have the power switch on it and those kinds of things. So go through these. Some of them are very, very easy. Others are like, oh yeah, let me just make sure, double check it. Pretty easy to check off. But if you do that, then you will be ready to go when you get there. So we're gonna start inspection Saturday nights on a lot of tournaments. They do not start inspections till Sunday morning, but we want to do it on Saturday night because then if you have something you're not that you didn't expect, that you thought you had passed, you didn't, or maybe you just are still playing catch up with things, then we have time to help you get ready in order to pass inspection. Our goal is to start gameplay, have our opening ceremonies, and start gameplay between 10 and 10:30 in that time frame on Sunday morning. Whether we do five, we'll have at least 5 matches, qualifying matches. If we look at it, we might do 6. And I don't know if that's something that, if we take a little longer in the day and you get a little bit more gameplay, if that's worth it to you. But we can choose to do 6 matches. That's an option we can do as well. It just takes a little bit more time. Um, but we'll take a look. We'll talk about that. So those are 2 things. The other thing that is very important for this is your team rosters. And I stress this over and over and over. And this year we have been fairly successful. We've only had one team all season in First Lego League that didn't quite catch this, and there was a lot of stress for them. But again, if you do this, then it will reduce your stress on the day, because your ticket essentially to even get in to start inspection is to have your team rosters. The steps for having the team rosters: first of all, make sure that you don't have any outstanding tasks. This means you have to have 2 coaches that have been cleared through the youth protection program. So you can check your outstanding tasks. You can also come here to your name in the top right hand corner, and there's acknowledgement forms. Make sure you've completed all of those. There's a bunch of them in there. Make sure they're all done. And then the youth protection screening. If you're a teacher and you've been screened by the FBI and all that other kind of stuff, state police or whatever it may happen to be, yeah, you got to do this as well. This is our checkoff. I know it's much less than that, but please make sure you've done that. Once you have that done, then you can come to your under the contacts here, and it really doesn't matter if it's a First Lego League team or First Tech Challenge team. It's the same thing. You come here, you can click on Youth Members. If that is done, then you have the express enrollment where you'll have this QR code link, and you have a URL and a QR code. You can send it to your parents. They can scan that QR code, fill out, sign it, create an account really quickly, sign in, and then fill out the permissions for them. Then that's all that is done. When you're finished, then, and you have them all on your team, then here is the printed roster. You'll be able to click on that printable roster, print that out, and bring that with you. So please work on that ahead of time. That's super, super important. So to get that done. Those two things out of anything else that you do will really help you in reducing your stress level at the time of the tournament. So let me stop sharing my screen here. Um, all right, so that's important there. So that's going to be Saturday night is when you'll check in. Every team member will have a button that will have your team number on it. Team numbers are very important. Team names are cool, but team numbers are awesome. So the team number is important. So um, take a look at that. The gym will be open from 8 to 10 Saturday night for robot and field inspections. We'd love to see as many people through teams through that Saturday night as possible. If you need to finish up on Sunday morning, that's fine, not a problem. We have till a couple hours on Sunday morning. On Sunday morning, the gym will open at 7:30. Judging begins right at 8 o'clock. So we'll get a schedule out for you ahead of time, so we'll email that to you so you know what your judging time is, and you'll want to be there, be ready to go um, as soon as um, as soon as
As soon
as
as
soon as you're ready.
you're ready, you're ready.
So make sure you're ready at that time for your judging session. The judging sessions are 15 minutes, and then there'll be follow up. The judges will come around in the lobby. I mean, in your pits for pit interviews and that kind of thing later on as well. So it's a number of things there all throughout the weekend. There is a thing called gracious professionalism, which is should be on display by all members of your team and people associated with your team. So please make sure that you're following that. Once we are done with judging, then we're going to do our opening ceremonies. There'll be a driver's meeting. The driver's meeting is wherein our head referee will go over last minute. Oh, by the way, remember this. Don't forget about this. There'll just be a couple pointers. We'll talk about the flow, and that's when you will have um, your matches. You will have at least 5 qualifying matches. You don't know who your alliance partners are. You don't know who your opponents are before that point in time. Um, Ahead of this time, it's a very common thing to do scouting. If you look at First Tech Challenge scouting, that's when teams go around to each other and they say, "Hey, what can your robot do? What can't you do? Where's your strengths?" And that way, when you actually know who your alliance partner is, then you know how to work together already. So that happens before even the the that's before the drivers meeting. After the drivers meeting, then that's when the matches actually start, and will go right into matches, jump right in, and make that happen there. So then we'll go through the qualifying matches sometime in the afternoon, typically around 2:30. Um, Whenever we're done with that, then we go into the elimination matches. There's alliance selection, and the alliance selection process is outlined in there. That's where the top ranked team gets to choose their partner, and it goes on down. So we have 8 teams that will go into the elimination matches at that point in time. Once that's all over, then we'll have a little break where we tear everything down, and then we'll have our award ceremony at the end. Um, so that's kind of what the weekend will look like for that. Lunch obviously will be in there. We'll break for at least probably 45 minutes for lunch to get everybody through lunch in that time period and get going with that. And we'll let you know where that is in the schedule. The match schedule won't have times on it. It's just they happen one right after the other as soon as we can make them happen and go through there. All right, so that's kind of the weekend and the highlights of that. Just want to pause and open up for any questions.
I have a couple questions.
Yeah,
Um, so I know typically we're with the other group, but now it's different. So will the cafeteria not have meals? I know you said for Sunday the Pathfinders
yeah.
will be
So
doing it.
yeah, so they will have meals on Sabbath and Sunday both.
Okay, okay,
Sabbath
so
breakfast, lunch, supper, but it's all
okay,
ordered directly from them. They're taking
okay,
care of
all
all of
right.
that. Yep. And
And the
and
other
I sent
thing,
I sent out a link. If you need that again, let me know. But there's a link for
okay,
ordering directly from them.
from them, okay.
Yep.
Um, we're still in the middle of fundraising, so um, we're trying to figure out, a stay. But I know I contacted the name you gave for the dorm,
Yes.
and I think you had a deadline for this month on there, but I'm just waiting to hear back from whoever it is. So
Yeah,
I
I
just,
don't
yeah,
expect to have we expect to have enough dorm rooms.
yeah,
And I emailed him. I had a conversation by email with him because I found out that just at the end of last week that he hadn't responded to them, and I said, these coaches are stressing out because if they don't get the dorm rooms, then that changes their budgets, and
yeah,
they need to know. So it's not just,
yes,
oh, I'll put that off.
yeah,
This can change things for them. So hopefully you'll hear in the next day or two here.
okay,
I'm a little disappointed you haven't heard by today. Um, I may have to have some more conversations because we have the person who's doing it is new this year, and so
okay.
it's a little different. A little, each person handles it a little bit differently.
Yeah, I'll keep checking my
But
emails. I probably could have missed it
yeah,
too,
I
because yeah, just in a day with
well,
doing stuff.
yeah, you might not have, but it probably would
Yeah.
have come in the next day or two. Um, I yeah, I I don't expect because I think I know we ran out of dorm rooms when we were doing the combined tournament, but now
Yeah.
that we're not doing the combined tournament, I don't expect to have an issue with dorm rooms availability.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
I mean, who knows? Because they have two dorms. There's no other activity going on that weekend for the use of the dorms. So,
Okay.
I don't expect that to be a problem. You never know,
Yeah.
but I don't expect it to be a problem.
Okay.
When we had both tournaments going on at the same time, that really maxed us
Mhm.
out.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Okay. And just real quick, just want to make sure, confirm the what do you call it? Where you launch the airplane and the lift
the
and robot.
the drone landing
Those are
zone.
yeah, those are optional, right? Those are bonus points, right? They're not like,
I'm going to let our head referee talk about that.
yeah. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So, I mean, all parts of the game are optional. You're not required to do any particular part of the game. So, if you don't have a drone launcher, no worries. That means you won't have drones, so you won't need to bring them the paper airplanes. You won't need to bring those to inspection. The inspector will just skip that part of inspection. That'll be fine.
Okay.
So yes, it's an end game task. So it's one of the things that you can do specifically in the last 30 seconds. But if that's not a part of the game you're choosing to focus on, that
Yeah.
is fine. That said, I have found that it's one of the like lower bar, like slapping together a drone launcher and having it
Mm-hmm.
get at least, having at least some chance of getting those points is one of the
Mm-hmm.
easier things for teams compared to like putting pixels on the backdrop is quite hard as FTC
Mm-hmm.
tasks go. So
Mm-hmm.
if you have a meeting or so before the tournament, just kind of putting two pieces of metal and elastic band together with a servo could be a thing to
Yep.
think about. That said, it's
Okay.
definitely not required. So there will
Yeah.
be no
Okay.
negative consequences for not having a drone launcher or a drone beyond not scoring drone points.
Rubber
Okay.
bands
Okay.
and a
I'll let them
servo to
know.
release
Yeah.
the rubber bands might be pretty easy. Yeah.
Okay. I'll let them
So
know. I only
yeah.
got 3 kids, and it's a little
Yeah.
challenging this year.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Thank
Yeah,
you.
and hey, it
Mhm.
might be something you get somebody to help you with, the day of the
Have
tournament
a
even. You
competition.
never know. I mean,
Yes.
just keep the possibilities open.
Okay.
Um, the
Appreciate it.
drone
Thank
landing
you.
zone will be the hardwood gym floor. So do anticipate that it will not be carpet. It will just be a hardwood floor. So depending on how you're launching your drone, it can either help it go farther or help it go too far. So
Okay.
just keep that in mind. It's not carpet where it'll catch on the carpet.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? All right. Rule 15 and rule C15 and rule C17. Who knows what those rules are about? So I put in the email, I put the rule numbers, and I even have Sam looking them up now, don't I? What are those rules all about? I just saw the look on Sam's face going, oh, yeah, I know what that is. Any takers? So C15 has to do with protective eyewear, and C17 has to do with the kinds of shoes you wear in the pit area. So read those rules carefully, come prepared, because they will be strictly enforced at all times. And having safety glasses on the top of your head like this does not, it doesn't help. So if you, like me, have glasses, wear glasses, you can get side shields. However, make sure they're ANSI certified. The really thin, flimsy plastic ones do not work. They make just very, very thin plastic ones. You have to have the ones that are ANSI certified. So please make sure you have those, bring them with you, because that will be strictly enforced. Anytime anybody in the pit area, in order to be in the pit area, has to be wearing safety glasses and appropriate shoes. So two very, very important things.
If your team is bringing safety glasses in a box for everybody, which is a good way of doing it if you want to, make sure you've got it ready for 8 o'clock on Saturday evening, because
Yes.
to get into the pit, everyone needs to be wearing safety glasses.
Correct. Yep. Have them there ready to go. Yeah, bring them with you Saturday night. That's a good point, because sometimes you forget Saturday night. Oh yeah, I need that in addition to my robot. So even Saturday night, that will be enforced there. So definitely make sure that you do that. I encourage teams, don't get the cheapest ones possible, because sometimes the optics are not quite as good on the really cheap ones, and it's not quite, the plastic isn't quite as smooth, and then that is just fatiguing on the eyes to wear them all day. So spending a little bit more money on something better quality safety glasses can make it more comfortable to wear on the eyes, because if you get the cheap ones, I found that I've done that. That's how I know I've done it. And it's like at the, partway through, you're just like, oh, my eye, you don't really sense it. It's not like it hurts or anything, but it's just, your eyes are like, man, my eyes are tired. And then you get better safety glasses and it's like, oh, I can wear these a long time without any fatigue on the eyes. So that's important. All right. That's kind of an overview of the weekend. Obviously, there is more information available in the game manual. In part 1 of the game manual, it reviews all of that information and what the processes are. So if you're traveling, it might be some exercise to do to review the game manual and some of the processes for the weekend. Refamiliarize yourself with it. All right, let's spend just a little bit of time on any highlights from judging that you should need to know to expect.
Great. Thank you, Mel. So to start with, there was an email from Mel last week about Dean's List candidates. If you are intending to nominate a Dean's List candidate, that closes on Thursday evening. So you've got 2 more days to nominate your Dean's List candidate. There was lots of information in Mel's email. So go back to that, look at that. We talked about safety glasses. The other thing that I want to talk about for Saturday evening, if at all possible, we would like all 15 portfolios handed in on Saturday evening, so that I have them ready for the judges at 7:30 on Sunday morning. So they have a few minutes to look at them before they see the teams. So please plan to print them before you travel, unless you're traveling very early. and please plan to have somebody come Saturday evening. Having said that, if there's 1 or 2 teams that don't make it Saturday evening, catching up with 1 or 2 portfolios is fine on Sunday morning, but I would like most of them already sorted by judge room and ready for that. So there are 3 main parts of judging for First Tech Challenge. One part is the portfolio. The second part is the interview. And Mel already said that you will have 15 minutes for your interview. The first 5 minutes is the uninterrupted presentation time. And it isn't essential for teams to have a presentation, but I do strongly encourage that you help your team have a presentation, because that is the time period where they can guarantee that what they want to tell the judges is what gets told to the judges. It's also, I encourage that everybody speaks during that 5 minutes, and it is supposed to be 5 minutes. So a couple of seconds long is fine, but it can't be very long. Then after that, it's questions, and the judges will ask questions. They will ask follow-up questions from the 5-minute presentation that you do. If your team decides that they don't want to have a presentation, that's fine. And the judges will do all 15 minutes will be questions. Okay, so that is that. Think about what is important to the team and how to communicate it effectively, and encourage them to do that. Start practicing it now. The more they practice, the more they'll be comfortable doing their presentation in 5 minutes and communicating what they want the judges to know. And then the third part of judging is the pit visits. So the judges will be in 3 judging rooms, and you will see 1 set of judges, and there will be 3 in your room, and then we will move them about for specific awards. The judges will come around the pit in the later, after you've started doing matches, to ask specific questions about something particular. And so that's another thing. Write that down and encourage your students to know, if a judge asks you a specific question, please listen carefully and answer that specific question, because they're thinking about something particular when they come into the pit to ask questions in the pit visit for the pit visits.
Keep going.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. And so those were my main.
And
Oh, yeah.
Fiona, are
Yes.
coaches allowed in the judging rooms?
No. That's what you wanted me to say, yes?
Yes.
Yes. No.
Correct.
No, only the team. So thank you for saying that, though, Mel. Yes. So that's another thing you need to make sure that the team understands. They are going to go into the room themselves. Nobody else. The judges are already in the room. The team will go into the room, and the team will interact with the judges for that 15 minutes. No, we don't have coaches in the room.
Coach interaction during pit visits.
Yeah, thank you. We also discourage coaches from interacting with the judges during pit visits. So if a couple of coaches come and start talking to your students, it's a good idea to back off. Leave them to answer it, because the judges need to hear from the students, not the coaches.
Yeah.
The last thing I recommend that you talk to the students about is the pit visits are actually very important. All of the different parts of FTC judging are all put together. And then once we've done all of that, we go back and we discuss everybody. The pit visits are vital. The judges that are doing the pit visits, they will ask the same questions of each of the teams that they're considering for that award. And based on those answers, they will rank them. if your team, and this is perfectly normal, you know, this is completely developmentally appropriate, that the team has just had a difficult match and the robot was being difficult, and they really want to focus on mending the robot for the next match. See if you can find a couple of students, you know, and encourage them at all times to have a couple of students that are available to talk to the judges about whatever it is the judges want to know, even while the other students are getting the robot ready for the next match.
And yeah, your point is valid. When I was coaching FTC, when they'd come around for pit visits, if I was in the pit, I would back up out of the pit area, out of my pit area. I'd be somewhere I could kind of eavesdrop just a little bit, you know. I could hear a little bit of the conversation, but be far enough away that I was not interacting at all with them in any way. So, because then it's up to the kids and what they do.
Right, exactly. And control award. So as well as the portfolio, if you wish to be considered for the control award, you need to use either the control award form or similar, answering the same questions, and that needs to be handed in. Well, it may as well be handed in Saturday evening.
So here on this same page we were looking at before, right by the robot inspection, is the control award submission form and control award instructions. You want the traditional, we are not remote. So you'll use the traditional form, print this out ahead of time and fill it out. This is one award that you are only eligible for if you submit this document. If you don't submit the document, you will not be considered for the control award.
And last season, the team that ended up winning the control award at the event was a rookie team who they'd learned to program that year. And I don't know whether the students were thinking that they had much of a chance of getting the award when they wrote it up, but they wrote it up anyway. And they did end up winning that award. So, you know, you cannot be considered if you don't write up a control award submission and you don't know what everyone else's programming is like. So our advice is write up a control award submission.
Well, and I always like to tell the story of one year when our team submitted the control award. Although we had no autonomous programming, we never got to the program in autonomous, and we got third place. I'm pretty sure the only reason why we got third place is there were only 3 teams that submitted anything. And so because we had a plan, we ended up getting third place. Now, we do encourage you to definitely do something, but that's how it worked out for us. So you never know. Always submit it. It never hurts.
Okay, that covers me.
All right. Any questions for Fiona on judging? All right. Sam, give us the highlights of anything we need to be aware of for the reffing the game itself.
Before you get there,
Yes.
I'm Dennis from North Carolina.
Yeah.
The judging. Will there be microphones in a room when the kids do their presentation?
There will not be, no. It's a fairly intimate because it'll be in a classroom and the judges will be sitting at a table and the kids just come up in front of the judges and talk to the judges there. So it's not a big room. The only people in that room are going to be the judges and your team.
Second question, for the pit interviews, I know the coaches are not supposed to interfere, but some kids are having language problems. Is there any?
So what I would encourage you to do, and Fiona, you can speak, tell me, you can add to this, but if that was me, I would coach my kids how to help those kids with language problems. So the kids are helping each other versus you as a coach helping. And that's part of the whole program is how do we help each other? Okay, if there's language problems, hey, we're just going to talk about it. Yeah, we got some language problems. And I'll tell you what, I had a kid one year. When I coached the first year, I had a kid who would not talk at all to the judges. Even we tried to give him one phrase to say. He wouldn't say a word. Did not matter. He wouldn't do it. It wasn't because he had a language problem. He just wouldn't do it. By the time he was done as a senior, his last year, he was leading out in all the technical discussions. So, and like I say, when we go into the judges' rooms, I wasn't in there. There's nothing you can do in there for that. So you're not in the judging room. So the more you can have your teammates help each other and learn how to mentor each other and help each other in those situations, the better. Fiona, what would you like to add?
Honestly, what you said is what I would say. Help the students help each other, and if there are students that can't reply, that's okay. The other students can help them.
Okay, well,
And, and
I was making reference to the pit area question, the judging,
Yeah,
because
and even then, so and in the pit area, you're not having often the entire team is not there um, interacting with them. It might be two or three of your team members that'll be there. I remember many times when they would come by and maybe some people work on a robot. Maybe they were off doing something else or scouting. They might be scouting. They might be out talking to other team members or working on other projects, not in the pit area. And the only thing I did as a coach is if I saw the judges coming to my pit area and looking, I would just make sure I would make, I would say, I would try to direct particular students to make sure they headed back to the pit area, um, especially the ones that were the more articulate ones, but everybody doesn't have to talk in the pit, the pit interviews.
so judges will not be the only English language will be used.
Yes, I believe so. I
Because
don't know.
about 70% of my team are Spanish speaking people, and some are good and some are not so good. Some
Yeah,
might understand you, but you have to speak slowly and and that kind of a way so
sure.
that they can
Well, we
take
we
time.
will we will alert the judges to that, and we have team members not only with that kind of a language, but we've had team members with autism and different things like that. They're not going to hold them back for struggling with the words. They're not going to discount them for that. We will always accommodate that, and if it takes a little bit longer for the pit interview to get the information and communicate, that's not a problem. We may have some judges I know I have one judge I can think of that's Hispanic, but I don't, we can't guarantee, and I think it will be in English. But again, have them work with each other on that communication, and we're not, the judges aren't going to hold it against them if they struggle with words. That's not the thing. Even if you're struggling with words, judges can usually tell whether or not they know something about the robot. So.
I'm truly happy to hear that. Thanks.
All right. So moving on to robot game. Mel, if you could pull up game manual part 2, and specifically we're going to take a look at GS9 and GS12. And while that happens, I'm going to talk a little bit about how to read the team rankings. So when you see the team rankings posted after we've started running matches, and you've got we'll have a rankings list that will be on a monitor in the pit during the day, and that's going to have a few different headings. One of those is RP, and that's ranking points. Ranking points are 2 for a win, 1 for a tie, and 0 for a loss, and then those are averaged by the number of matches you play. So your RP number is going to be a number from 0 to 2, and it reflects how many matches you've won out of the matches that you've played. And that is the first thing that ranks teams. Then is, and this is the reason I'm talking about
And
this, TBP1.
Sam, it's 0 to 2 for each match they play. They can get up to 2 points for each match, correct?
So it is averaged now. It used to
Oh,
be
it's
a sum.
averaged? Okay.
It's now averaged by the number of
Okay.
matches they play. So in fact, you won't ever see an RP now, and this used to be different, but you won't ever see an RP over 2.
Okay.
If your RP is 2, that means you won every match. If it's 0, obviously you haven't won any matches, and then between is a number. So yes, it will be. That makes it a little harder to read in terms of like total, but it means that it more accurately reflects teams when they haven't played an equal number of matches, which can be true during the day. By the end of the day, everyone will have played the same number, but during the day you may have one team's played 3 and others played 4, and the average makes it easier to compare their rank.
So you get 2 points if you win. For the ranking points, you get 2 if you win, 0 if you lose. If it ties, each alliance,
gets 1. Yes,
and each team in the alliance gets 2 points.
Yes.
Of the winning alliance. So the points are given to the team of each team of the winning alliance.
Yes. Yes. So then the other numbers, and these are ones I get a lot of questions about. It's TBP1 and TBP2. Those stand for tiebreaker points. Tiebreaker points 1 and 2. Tiebreaker points 1 is the average, again, across your matches of your autonomous score. And that's the score for your alliance during the autonomous period of each match. And it's worth noting that's not specifically what your team did in the autonomous period, because it is the entire alliance. So if your autonomous doesn't work, but your partner's scores a lot of points, you get the points your partner scored in your tiebreaker points. So then the tiebreaker points 1 is the sum of all of the points that your alliances have scored in autonomous divided by the number of matches you've played. So that's your first tiebreaker. And the second tiebreaker is the same, except it is end game points instead of. So the end game achievements are the suspend task and the drone task. And so as you can probably guess from the numbers, tiebreaker points 1 is used first, and only if a team is tied on both ranking points and tiebreaker points 1 does it go to tiebreaker points 2. And I'm going over that because I do tend to get some questions on the day about, what does TBP mean? So I wanted to mention that. All right, we now have our manual up, and we're going to. Yeah, we're going to talk about a couple of things that have to do with the human player. So the human player is a member of the drive team. The drive team is the people who drive the robot, so up to 2 drivers, a coach, and that coach could be a student or it could be an adult. And so those are the 3 people that stand in the driver's box. And then each alliance will have 1 human player who will be in the human player box. The human player box is on the opposite side of the field to the drive box. So the red drive team is going to be next to the blue human player, and vice versa. The human player is the person who is allowed to enter pixels into the wing. The wing is the audience side front corner of the field. And there's a blue wing and a red wing. And pixels can be entered into the wing by hand by the human player. As you can see here. Though
it's not the full field.
Are we in the remote version? Because that looks like a remote field. In any case,
yeah, we
the
are.
wing will
Sorry
look,
about that.
No worries. The rules on the wing will look very similar, though. Actually, I was looking at those rules. I thought, my gosh, I thought the wing constraints had more items than just D, and that would be the reason, because we were in the remote version.
Right.
Yes. So
sorry.
No worries. I'm going to keep talking about it, and once we get there, we'll have we can have visuals. So yes, we went past the wing a little bit there,
There we go.
and then here's a full field. Nice. Yeah, so you can see the wing. There is the red and the blue tape, and you can see how as I said with the driver's boxes, the wings are on the opposite side to the rest of the Alliance colored items. So
This
the
one doesn't
rigging,
show driver's boxes, does it?
yes, but the driver's boxes would be off to the side of the field where the on the side where the rigging and the spike marks and the backstage are that color. But then next to that driver's box would be the opposite color human player box, which would be next to the wing, which is the triangle made by the tape in the audience side corners. And that is where the wing is where pixels can be introduced into the field by hand by the human player. So there's one human player per alliance. Since there are two teams on an alliance, the two teams will need to discuss and decide which team is going to supply the human player. So ideally, the teams have a conversation and come to an agreement. If they cannot, if the two teams disagree on who should supply the human player and can't resolve it, the team that is listed as 1. So on your schedule, the teams will be listed as red 1 and blue 1, and then red 2 and blue 2. Those are here we are. Yeah, there's your drive stations only. This is it shows you where the drive stations are, but this being a picture of last season's
That's
game.
last season's. Yep. Sorry about that.
Does
Let me
not
try
have
again.
the human player boxes because last season the human player was in the drive box. But that does kind of show you where the drive boxes are roughly. Yes. So if the teams cannot come to an agreement on who is going to supply the human player, it will be the team listed as 1 on the schedule who supplies the human player, unless it is an eliminations match, in which case it is the alliance captain who chooses which team will supply the human player. So human players, because they are able to reach into the field, there are some particular constraints on how they can do that, because that is potentially a safety risk, putting your hands in the field where the robots are. And so that's where, here we are.
Got the right
Here
one.
is a full picture, and you can see that you have the driver's box of one color, and next to that you have the human player box of the other color, and that extends forward past the driver box towards the field. Now, the human player needs to have at least part of their body in that human player box at all times. They don't have to be completely in that box at all times. In fact, they couldn't do their job of reaching into the field if they were completely in the box. But they also need to make sure that they do not enter the driver's box, and certainly not in a way that inhibits the opposing drive team in any way. So the human player will generally be towards the field wall side and probably like leaning over. They are allowed to sit down or kneel down if that's what works for them. And they're, as I mentioned, they're allowed to put pixels into the end drones, but my guess is that won't come up. It has not come up so far into the wing. And so this is where GS12 comes in. So GS12 restricts what the human player is allowed to do and how they are allowed to put in, yes, here we are, how they're allowed to put pixels in the wing. So first item so each violation of this rule results in a minor penalty. A minor penalty is 10. If your alliance receives a minor penalty, that is 10 points added to the score of the opposing alliance. So drones and pixels in the storage area may not be handled until after the match has begun, with the exception of the preload scoring elements. So what that means, the important thing to know there is that the human player because they're potentially going to need to give pixels to 2 different robots, it may be important to tell a human player who is going to work for your alliance, who's on your alliance partner's team. You might want to tell them where you want pixels in the wing. That's a thing you can do before the match, but you cannot do that by using the pixels that are in the pixel storage. As you can't pick the pixels up and say, like, here, I want them here. That's not allowed because of that first item, because you're not allowed to handle those pixels until after the match has begun. So if you do want to do this is exactly where and how I want the pixels, you want to do that on the practice field. You want to have a plan to go over to the practice field and just do that quickly there. Otherwise, you can point to parts of the wing. You can say, like, right there, that's where you should put it. But you can't actually mime out with a pair of pixels. Now, once the match has begun, that will be the autonomous period. And that's yes. So the pixels may not be placed into the wing until the driver controlled period, but they may be handled during the autonomous period. So if the human player wanted to rearrange the pixels in the pixel storage area, they can do that during the autonomous period. But they're not allowed to put them into the field until the driver controlled period. So then that brings us to point B. Drones and pixels may be placed or dropped only in the wing and only during the driver controlled period. They can be in any orientation, maybe in contact with other drones or pixels in the wing. So that's fairly self-explanatory. The human player can reach into the field and put pixels in there. Human players, item C, can put a maximum of 2 pixels or 1 drone. And honestly, it's probably best off if you just sort of ignore me whenever I say drone here. It is allowed to have your drone in storage, and then you would then have built a robot that's able to pick up a drone off of the ground and throw it. I have not seen such a robot. I don't know that any team has even considered that. It seems remarkably more difficult than having the drone start on the robot and be immediately ready to fire without needing to be manipulated first. So there are rules that support entering a drone through the wing, but I would be shocked if we see that happen. So anyway, to return to, so once a pixel or drone has been placed in the wing, a human player may not pick it up or reposition it. So that's important. You put down your pixels and you let go of them, and then, oh, they're not quite in the right place. Resist the temptation to reach down and move them, because you're not allowed to do that. That is a penalty. Human players may not propel drones or pixels out of the wing. So that means that you have to put them down and they have to stay where they are. And now I should mention out, completely out, versus in, completely in. The pixels are required to be placed in the wing. So that doesn't necessarily have to be completely in, but they have to, some part of the pixel that you place has to be over the, on top of or inside the tape line. So it could be like all the way back at the wall. It could be like just on top of the tape line. So it does not have to be completely inside, but it does, you're not allowed to cause it to go completely out. So then the last thing, so F and G you can read, but I'm not going to read out. H and I are important and come up a lot. So the human player cannot break the vertical plane of the playing field perimeter or hand deliver a pixel or drone to the playing field when there is a robot in the wing. So the human player should be aware of where the robots are. If a robot is in the wing, that means any part of the robot is over or inside that tape line. The human player can't go in the field. And this includes reaching in to put in pixels, but it also means, and this is something the human player needs to know, it also means they can't like reach over the field at all. What will happen a lot is the human player will be directing the robot. They'll be going like, go this way, go that way, back up. And they'll do this, and they'll reach into the field and get a penalty. So being like going like that and having your hands extend over the field, that is being, because it says break the vertical plane of the playing field perimeter. And so that's even if you don't have a pixel in your hand, and it's even potentially, I've seen human players like lean forward and they're breaking the vertical plane with their head. That is not safe. Last season, I did see a human player get hit in the face by a robot. Fortunately, that's why we wear safety glasses. It was totally fine, but it wouldn't have been if they were not wearing safety glasses. So that is like being over the playing field is also grounds for that. So the human player should be very aware of where all of the parts of their body are, and make sure that they're not breaking the barrier of the vertical plane of the playing field while there's a robot in the wing. And then I reinforces that, and also the drivers as well should be aware of this rule. So the human player shouldn't go in the wing while there's a robot there, but the drivers should not drive into the wing while the human player is in the field. They should make sure they are paying attention and that they're not entering the wing while there's a human player there. So there's a question: can pixels be stacked? And so if we scroll up just a little bit, it talks about, so drones and pixels may be placed or dropped in the wing in driver control period in any orientation and may be in contact with other drones or pixels. So that's B. So that's basically a yes. They can be in contact with other pixels in the wing. So yes, you can stack them. You cannot move if you're going to stack a pixel on top of a pixel that you placed previously, you can't move the pixel that you placed previously using the one that you're stacking, but you can if you just stack it on top and just leave it there. That is fine. So then that covers human player constraints. The last thing on this is we're going to move to GS9, and this is wing constraints. And so I'm going to start with D here. So there can be a maximum of 6 pixels in the wing at any time. So the human player can continue to place pixels 2 at a time. So you can place 2, and then another 2, and then another 2. But if you place that many and none of them have left, a robot has not come and taken any of them, then there are now 6 pixels in the wing. So now if you place any more, you'll receive a minor penalty for each pixel. The minor penalty will be assessed for each additional pixel beyond the maximum. So
is it every so many seconds?
It is not over seconds. It's just once. Yeah. Just once. So it will not. Yes. It does not. There's no count on it. It does not continue. It is just individually one time. That is important to know, because once you get to 6, you got to wait for the robot to come and get some. It's also important because
if I have 6 and then I add a 7th, I get a penalty.
Yep.
Robot, I can't pick up the 7th one though, right?
No,
you can't remove it.
Then get another penalty.
The robot can remove it. The robot removes 1, and I put another one down. It dropped down to 6. I put another one down. It goes up to 7. I get another penalty.
Correct. Yep. So now, if you've looked at the field and you've seen the stacks that start along the audience edge of the field, you might notice that it's potentially quite easy for an opposing robot to knock that stack over, especially if that robot started, because one of the starting positions is right next to the opposing wing. It could be quite easy to knock over a stack of pixels and have those end up going into the wing. There has been in the Q&A forum, there's been a answer to a question about that has established that if an opposing color robot, so we have the blue wing over on the near side here, if a red robot were to cause pixels to go into the blue wing, that would be a major penalty per pixel. A major penalty is 30 points added
And,
to the score.
and that's a
of the
major
opposing player.
penalty. That's a penalty for the red team that caused it to
Yes.
go in. It's
Yes,
not against
that-
the blue team. It's not against the
Yeah.
blue wing. It's against the red team that caused it to go into the blue.
That is correct. However, those pixels are now in the wing. So if those pixels, so if there's 2 pixels in there and the red robot knocks 4 into the wing, now there's 6. And so that is that's now the wing is full. You can't put any more pixels down. If the blue human player does put another pixel down, they would get the penalty for putting too many pixels in. However, the Red Alliance has received 4 major penalties for putting 4 pixels in. So that's why that's such a heavy penalty there for that particular action, because you can functionally shut off the usage of the wing, or at least, you know, assuming that the pixels are in there in such a way that a robot can't easily get them out. It's possible to do that. It's not allowed to do it as a strategy. So trying to do it like every match, even if you're willing to accept the penalties, that would go into egregious behavior. The referees would have a conversation with the team, and there'd potentially be cards and things. But even if it happens accidentally, then it has the potential to at least temporarily prevent the use of the wing, and that's why there is a large penalty attached to that. So that's something I'm letting people know. If you plan to pick up from the stacks at the front, be very cautious about the one that's right next to the opposing color wing, because there is the potential, like you're allowed to go and grab pixels from there, but if you end up pushing them into the opposing wing accidentally, it's a bad time. All right. So those were the rules that I wanted to highlight particularly, since I've been getting closer and closer to things that are relevant to gameplay as these meetings have gone on, and the human player, I wanted to save the human player discussion for the final meeting. So
All right.
any questions about robot game?
Maybe related to something we haven't covered. That's okay
Yes.
too.
Doesn't have to be specific to what we just talked about.
All right. Well, we are super excited to have the tournament just around the corner in about 2.5 weeks, and have you guys here in Central Florida for it. Looking forward to it, and it's always a fun time. We've got an excellent set of referees and judges this time around for us, ready to go. So we're super excited about the panel we have to evaluate your teams and work with you. A lot of experience there. So a good experienced FTA. So the field technical advisor is the person that if your robot has a problem in the field, they kind of help you with that, and they're the experts on how that functions. So we definitely want to see the teams there Saturday night. If you can't make it or you can't send your whole team, that's fine. No, there's no. We're not going to take attendance, but having you there Saturday night is very, very valuable, if at all possible, because then we can get you through that inspection, and it will help reduce your stress levels, which is what we want to do, get that done. So we're not going to penalize you, but the penalty might be that you're very high stressed and trying to get everything done in a short amount of time. That'll be a self penalty. Nothing that we implement there. It'll be a self-implemented penalty. So anyway, with that being said, if you have questions about the weekend, I think we've communicated all the vital things about it coming up, but certainly we want you to be successful. If you have some extra people are willing to volunteer, there are things that can be done that we still need volunteers for. Always could use some help with queuing and some pit management and some things like that. So if you do have somebody, please let me know. We're always glad to have some extra people volunteering. Clearly, you can't be, people associated with your team can't be judges or referees, but there's a lot of little things that go on. This last weekend, we figured we had about 38 people volunteering to help make the event happen. So there are a lot of volunteers, a lot of positions, and we really needed about 45 is what we really needed. So we were a little on the short side for that size of tournament. So it takes a lot of people to make it happen and to go smoothly, and just to help everybody be comfortable and to do that. It will be live streamed. I think I put a link to the YouTube channel. We'll be live streamed on our YouTube channel, and I think on Facebook. We didn't get Facebook this time. Might try X one of these days. I don't know. Trying to put live stream on an X, see what happens there. But hey, why not? Who knows? We're going to play around with that. But definitely YouTube's the primary one that we will live stream it on. So check that out. So if people can't be there, I think I also mentioned to you, let me just share my screen one more time really quick. I was going to mention this. So I think I sent you a link to FTC scoring. Oops. Okay. And right, there we go. I think it's this tab right here. Of course, it's right under my sharing button. Can I get that out of the way? All right, I got it. Sorry, got to do this. Here we go. The tab I needed to hit was right under my controls there. All right, so if on FTC events, .firstinspires.org, I have a link to this, and you can come down. You can see all the teams that are participating here, and your team should be there. If you don't like your team name, or if your team name is changed, I can't change it here. The only place you can update that is by going into your dashboard, under the first dashboard for your team, and changing the team name there. That's where it pulls it from. But then throughout the day, then you will have all the history. You'll be able to see the qualification matches, all the history. The scoring system puts all the data here live. So you will be able to see that. You can check on it in addition to what goes up on the rankings there. But you can see all the rankings, playoff information, and this will show you all of that data after the fact as well. When you want to go back and see what your scores were and all the details of it, there's a tremendous amount of detail available here, and it does go up there live during the day, during the event. So that's all available to you, and you can come in, and you can also be able to click on your particular team after the fact as well, and you'll be able to see all the details of that particular event there. So just kind of a cool thing that's available, and you can go back if you have played previous seasons. You can actually go back to previous seasons and see those as well in this system. So and see how you did. So kind of a cool little thing there. So all right, with that, we're going to close it out. Thank you all very much, and appreciate everything you do for your young people. And thank you for being part of Adventist Robotics and First Tech Challenge. Have a great evening.